Okay, thank you everyone for joining our weekly local area session. So we're going to go ahead and go through our project updates real quick. So we are in the first week of Sprint 32, and the items that are currently in development for Sprint 32 are some updates to negotiated goals, career plan goals and objectives, the career plan signature upload and signature log, adding notes to training programs, adding the documents tab to the entity details page, making it or make adding a first contact mandatory, more items on the entity details page, upgrades and testing to platform versions, and of course, the constant data migration. Items that we are currently in discovery with will be still the applications, assessments, expanding services on the career plan goals and objectives, and the signature summary log, and exits and outcomes. So today for our working session, we do have two things on the docket. We are going to be introducing UAT for release 4 cycle 1, which is editing customer information. So that's what I will be going over first. That should not take the entire time today. So once our UAT session is completed, Olivia is going to go through some pre-screening discovery with you all as well. So let me get all my UAT stuff switched over and we'll get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the user acceptance testing guide for editing customer information, and then we will go through the notebook again, and then I will give you a quick demo of what we're wanting you guys to do for UAT this week. So this is going to be release 4 cycle 1, which is going to be editing customer information on the customer profile. So that's going to be the next step that you're going to be doing after you've created your customer in the system. So release 4 cycle 1 expectations and homework. We are wanting to make sure that you can A, navigate to the customer profile, B, view the relevant customer information, C, edit customer information, and D, being able to utilize the customer title bar. We are asking that you have your homework completed by Tuesday, June 3rd. I know typically we do the following Tuesday, but with the holiday being on Monday, I want to ensure everybody has plenty of time to do their UAT. So that will be the following Tuesday that your homework will be due. As always, to access the UAT environment, you can just click this direct link, which we'll be sending an email out this afternoon with all the links available for you as well. When you click this, it'll take you right into our UAT environment for you to complete your testing. For reporting issues, we do ask that you log any issues, bugs, or enhancements in our UAT notebook. And in that notebook, you will see we now have release 4 cycle 1 as a tab here. And there are 3 sections within that tab. There is the navigating to the customer profile and viewing customer information on the profile, the customer title bar, and editing customer information. So you'll be able to log all of your information here as you're going through and completing your testing. Wrong one there. And when you log your entries, as always, we do ask that you document your information as you're completing UAT to ensure that you don't forget anything if you go back and add your information in later. The first page of the notebook does have an example if you do need to go back and look at that. The example's in release 3 cycle 1, the very first page here. So if you need to take a quick look and see how you should be logging your entries, you can look at that and see how we would do an entry in there. We do also ask that you be concise but detailed, and if there are multiple issues in one area, address each of them separately for clarity. If you have any issues getting access into the notebook or getting onto the test environment, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to any of us on the BA team, myself, Olivia, Lynette, or Al, and we'll make sure we get you all connected. There should be no access required. You should be able to access everything with no problems, but if anything does come up, please do not hesitate to reach out. So expectations for UAT, we do ask that you test thoroughly, you are detail-oriented, and providing that feedback. When you are putting in that feedback, as we go through and look at what you put in, we will determine that if what you put in is a bug, so that means it's not working as expected, and it's not performing according to requirements. If it's an issue, so that means it is working according to requirements, but you feel that it's not working the way that it should be for your as an end user, and enhancements where everything's working, but you think it could be improved or changed. You do not have to tag what you're putting in as a bug, issue, or enhancement. Myself or the other BAs going through your feedback will determine which items these are, but just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking for. And then some best practices, think like an end user, be specific and thorough, and provide context. We also do ask that you put your name in your feedback as you're going through your UAT, just in case we can't replicate the issue, bug, or enhancement that you are looking at, and we need to reach out to you to see exactly what happened. And whenever possible, also put in screenshots so that we can see exactly what you're seeing when you're doing that UAT. So any questions about the UAT itself before we go into what we're going to be doing today? Okay. So the first piece of UAT is just navigating to the customer profile. So we want to make sure that you're able to do that. And to get to the customer profile, you're going to go to the customer page here at the top, and it's going to bring you to your customer and application lists. You can either use the search filter on the left-hand side to search for the customer that you want to go to, or you can just use the list on the right-hand side to click on somebody that you're working with. If you have gone through previous UAT with the customer side, you likely already have customers you've created. If you remember the customer that you've created, you can use them for this purpose of UAT. If you do not remember your customer and you want to create a new one, you are more than welcome to do that as well. At the end of this demo, I will walk you through how to create another customer, just in case you forgot how to do so. And also because there are 2 bugs that are happening right now when you create a customer that we are aware of, but I want to make sure you're aware of it if you do add a new customer. So we'll go over that in a few moments. But once you have your customer that you know you want to work with, to get to their profile, you're just going to click on their hyperlinked last name, and that's going to navigate you right to the customer profile. When you get into the customer profile, it is a pretty big section. There are 3 main different sections in the profile. There's the customer information, which is what we're reviewing today in Release 4 Cycle 1 UAT. There's the application summary section. In here, there is a table for applications and a table for program services. These both are still under development and are not part of UAT. Same with the 3rd section, which is profile information. There are 3 sections under profile information. There's private information, veterans information, and additional contacts. Private information and veterans information are also still under development and not part of UAT. And then additional contacts, which is the very bottom section in here, will be part of UAT, and we'll be covering that in Release 4 Cycle 2, which will be done on Thursday, June 5th. So we will have that we're going over in a couple. So once you get to the customer profile, the very first section you're going to be looking at is the customer information section. So there are several different fields in here that are display fields that you can look at based off of the customer. And all of the basic information that you filled out in creating a customer profile should now show here. So that would be your customer's name. If you entered a phone number, their zip code, email address, things like that, date of birth will all show in this section. There are additional fields in here that were not part of the create customer profile that you can edit at any time. That will come into play later down the line as well when you're doing an application, like getting the full address and things like that. So there are also 2 fields, and all of these are detailed out on here of what each field is. And there are 2 fields that are not editable fields that I do want to highlight here. The first is the age field. So there is a field here that will tell you your customer's age. It is calculated based off of their date of birth and today's date. So it's just a quick reference for you to glance back and see how old your customer is. When you get to the application piece and you're trying to determine, if they're going to be like adult, dislocated worker, or youth, the system is going to calculate that and let you know if they're in that age range for youth or not. But this is just a nice quick glance for you to be able to see their age. The other one is the LOEA. So you can see in this screenshot, which is kind of small, but the LOEA is an NA field, and that is because we don't hook up LOEA until they have an application. This example customer does not have an application yet, so they don't have a LOEA associated with them. but as soon as they get an application, the LOIA will show in here. Two other fields that are not on this page but will be added, I just want to flag, are going to be the Illinois WorkNet username and the Illinois WorkNet ID number. We are going to add both of those fields into the customer information section here. They're going to be just right underneath as another row. That will be done next sprint. So just an FYI, you will have those two fields in the future. But as you complete your UAT through this next week, you will not see them right now. So we just want to make sure that when you create a customer profile or you're editing any information, that it all looks correct on here, that you're not seeing anything weird or funny when you're putting in information. So that is just the view part of the customer information section. And the other part that is a view field is the customer title bar. And we want you to make sure that the information is pulling over correctly. So that is the title bar at the top here. And it is a title bar that you can expand and collapse by clicking the little chevron here. So it will show you the customer profile, which is the page we're on right now, the customer's full name. So it'll give you their first name, their middle initial if it was entered, and their last name. And then if they enter any pronouns, they will be shown here as well. If they did not enter any pronouns, then there will not be any parentheses here with that information. It would just be the customer's name. If you click on that chevron, it will open and it will show you the customer's preferred name, the preferred communication method, their primary phone number, and their email. I know on this page, it looks a little duplicative because we have that information right down here, but this title bar is going to be used throughout all of the pages for the customer. So if you are in, the career plan and you're working with the customer, maybe you're doing assessments or you're in the, you're doing outcomes, this title bar is going to be everywhere for that customer. So maybe you're working on goals and objectives, or you're adding a service and you go, oh shoot, I meant to email Robert here about this career fair that's coming up. You can just open the title bar and get his email out without having to navigate all the way back to the profile to get that information. So it's just a nice quick access for you for this relevant information here. So we just want you to make sure, look at the title bar, see if there's anything wonky with that, or if there's anything you think is maybe missing that would be great to have in the title bar, anything like that. You can definitely put in for when you're doing your UAT. So now for the big piece of UAT, which is going to be actually editing this information. So when you're ready to edit any information, you'll be able to click the edit button over here on the right-hand side of the screen, and it's going to open up your edit customer information page. So this is now where you can go in and make any of those updates and changes. So when you do the customer profile, when you first create it, the only piece of the address, for example, that you have to put in is zip code. But maybe you're working with Robert here in this example, and Robert brought in his driver's license. So you now have his full address. And you want to go ahead and enter it. You could go ahead and put it in right here, put in the full address. Or maybe Robert, changed his last name, or maybe changed his email, gave you a new phone number. You can make all of those edits in here at any time with this customer. So that is another thing to note, is that this is kind of like your central hub for the customer. So you want to always have the most up-to-date information in here. When you do complete an application and that application is certified, the information that was put on that application is now static. You can't change the application, but you can still come in and change the customer profile. So, if they say, hey, I got a new phone number, even though the old phone number is going to be part of that application, you can still update the customer profile and collect that same information. Same with like last name. Maybe you're working with, Mary Smith, and Mary comes in and tells you like, hey, I got married. My last name's now Brown. You could change their last name to Brown. Their application is still going to be certified under Mary Smith, but now on the profile, it's going to be Mary Brown. So you're able to make those changes and keep the most up-to-date information on here. Another thing to note, that when we get to the application, I know we're not quite there yet, but any information that is on the customer profile will autofill into the application when you start an application. And then you would just verify if that information is still correct. And then on the flip side, if maybe you don't have the customer's address as an example, when you start the application and you put the address in as part of the application, it'll feed back to the profile. So they'll kind of talk to each other while they're in that stage, just to make sure that all the information is filling as needed. A few things to note on here is that we do still have those required fields. So your first name, last name, zip code, email, and date of birth. You are not able to remove any of these items from the edit field here and save it. It will not let you because those are the minimum items that we do need for a reportable individual. So at bare minimum, you always have to have those fields, which were the same required fields on the create customer profile. So once you're done making your changes, you just click save and it'll save your changes, and then everything should be reflected back here on the customer profile. And even further, your changes should be updated on your customer list here too. So if you change like their zip code or their last name or their preferred name, it would show in that area. If you go in here and you make some changes, you go, actually, nope, I didn't want to make those changes, you can hit cancel, and then it'll cancel you out of edit mode without saving your changes. So that is all we're doing for UAT this week. So it's a pretty short UAT. We just want you to verify that everything looks good on those view fields under the customer information section, that title bar, this edit field, and just making sure you can get to the profile. Any questions before I walk you through a live demo of it? Get our UAT environment pulled up. So I'm going to walk you through a customer that I've already put into the system. So let me pull her up real quick. She is. Okay. So I created Allison Hazelwood here as an example customer that we're going to walk through. So I already knew I want to work with Allison Hazelwood. I just typed in her last name as a quick search real quick, hit that search button, and she pulled right up into this list. Click on her last name, and now we are on her customer profile. So once again, this is the only section we're doing UAT on. This stuff down here, this application stuff, the program services, all of this, we are not doing anything with right now. We are still working on discovery pieces for application services. This information will get updated as the application goes through and gets approved. And then this very bottom section, additional contacts, will be the one that we'll do UAT on in 2 weeks. So we're just doing the very top section and the very bottom section over the next few weeks. So as you can see with Allison, when I filled out her create customer profile, I only filled out the very basic information. So I have her first name, her last name. We only collected zip code. So I have her zip code and it auto-populated the city based off of zip code. So I know she lives in Jacksonville, but I don't know where. And then I have her email address. Everything else are in A's because we didn't collect it. Another thing to note when you're going through this with preferred name, if you do not enter a preferred name for a customer, it is going to auto default their preferred name to their first name. But if we change their preferred name when we're editing the information, then it'll edit the preferred name and show what we enter instead. So just something to be on the lookout for. So when I open her title bar here, I can still see her preferred name is Allison because it matches her first name. We don't have a preferred communication method or phone number because those were not entered previously, but we do have her email address. So now I can go in and maybe Allison gave me some additional information and I want to edit that information. I can click this edit button and it's going to pull up Allison's edit field here. So maybe after having a quick conversation with Allison, I learned that she prefers to go by Allie. So I can put that in. And then she also gave me her address. I can put in her address. And we now know that that is in Illinois. And she also gave me a phone number. And when she gives me her phone number, I just gave her a quick question like, hey, can you receive text messages on that phone number? Yes or no? She says yes. And then she also lets me know that her pronouns are she, her, hers, so I can fill that field out. And then she also lets me know that her preferred communication is text message, so I can fill that out as well. If they do give you a secondary phone number, you can also enter that in here. But I entered in all of that additional information that Allie gave me. I can click save. Then we'll have the confirm customer address pop up just saying like, hey, here's what you entered and here's what we recommend. So that we're just making sure we're entering in a correct address. You can keep what you entered or you can switch it to the recommended field. It's not going to force you to do the recommended, but you can select which one you want to do, hit continue. So now that I've hit save, we can see on her title bar, her pronouns are now showing. When I open that up, I now see her preferred name is Allie, preferred communication method is text, and there's her phone number. And then in the customer information, I can now see all of that information being displayed as well. But I did not enter a secondary phone number or a middle initial, so those are all still blank fields. But we want you to play around with this, when you're editing information, change. You can try different drop-down options, see how that all works, try different things, and just make sure everything's saving the way you think it should be saving. Or if there's anything that we're missing, or, just play around with it, do whatever you would like to do. But that is going to be the UAT you're working on this week. Before I finish off this demo, though, I do want to go back to the customer list and just do a very quick walkthrough again on how to add a customer to the system, just in case anybody's participating in UAT now that was not in UAT previously when we did go through that information. And then, like I said, there are 2 bugs I just want to highlight that you are aware of. One thing I do want to note with adding a customer, though, this is not part of UAT currently. So anything in the duplicate customer search and the create customer profile, we are not doing UAT on. So you don't need to spend time on that. You can just go through, get your customer created so that you can get into their profile and do the UAT. So to add a customer, we're going to do the add customer button here, and it is going to bring up that duplicate customer search. So now we're wanting to make sure that the customer is not already in the system. So we're going to go ahead and put in somebody. So the first bug you are going to encounter if you do add a new customer for this is that the calendar picker is not quite working correctly. So if I do put in a date of birth through that by typing it in and I hit search, it's going to tell me that I didn't put in a date of birth. So if you do add a new customer, to put in the date of birth, you are going to have to click the calendar button to open it. Click the year to be able to get to the year view, move back to whatever year you want to select, and select the date of birth that way. So that's the first bug I want you to be aware of. We are aware of that currently on our end, and we are in the process of getting that fixed. So in the next couple of sprints, hopefully that will be fixed, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of that if you do add a new customer. So once you do that, you can hit your search existing customers, and then you can add your customer by clicking the add customer button. That's going to bring you to your create customer profile page. And that is where we're going to see our second bug. So you can see here on these 2 questions at the top and here on these 2 questions at the bottom, they are overlaying on each other. They are fixed in our test environment that is not for UAT. So this is what they should look like. But we did not deploy to UAT yet because more changes are coming to this page. So we didn't see the sense of deploying this and then deploying again. So just know that that first question is to help us serve you. Are there any accommodations or adjustments we can assist you with to fully participate in our program? It is run on here, but you can still do your drop down. Yes, no, I don't know, prefer not to answer. If you do say yes, it is going to bring up that second option, which is please indicate which accommodations or adjustments you may need. It's hard to read, but you can still see the drop down. If you say no, then it's going to just move forward. And then you can fill out your information as needed. So put in any of the optional information that you want to, but you do have to at least put in those required fields. And then these are your more, PII type information. They're a little bit more personal at the bottom. So we can just fill those out. And then that last question is, would you care to share any disability status that you have? This question is asked for reporting purposes. Yes, no, prefer not to answer. And then the "Are you a veteran" is the one that's kind of ran over here. So once you fill out everything on the Create Customer profile, hit Add Customer. It's going to let you know that their Element WorkNet account status has been created. You can see that information. You can click Continue, and then it's going to pop you right into the profile already. So if you, like I said at the beginning, if you already have a customer that you remember from previous UAT, you can just search for them using the search parameters over here, whether you want to do the quick search, the full search, however you want to do that. But if you do want to create a new customer as part of this UAT, you are more welcome to do that as well, whatever's going to work best for you. Like I said, if you do create that new customer, just be aware of that bug, especially here, that you have to use the calendar picker to pick your date of birth. But that is what we'll be doing for UAT this week. That will be due on Tuesday, June 3rd. Any questions about UAT for this next cycle? If there are no questions, like always, we'll send out an email this afternoon that will have the recording that you can go back and view, plus the document, the notebook, and also the direct link to the UAT environment. And as always, when you do go to the UAT environment and you go to this home page, you do not have to log in. Completely ignore this login button and just immediately click on the customers button here to go to the customer list. But that is all I had for UAT today. If there are no questions, then I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to Olivia so that she can do discovery.